A new, fast-growing Christian YouTube channel, Redeemed Zoomer, put out a video promisingly called All Atheist Arguments Answered in 10 Minutes. Let's see how he does.
There's no evidence of anything supernatural. Well, that's just not accurate. There are medically documented cases of people with demonic possession speaking in languages they don't know, for example, and people with near-death experiences getting information they never had access to.
Okay, medically documented cases of people with demonic possession sounds awesome. I would love to take a look at that, medical documentation. I get the feeling you're not going to provide any, are you? Demonic foes. So, okay, I bought the book. I only skimmed through a couple of chapters, but I did also watch a few of Dr. Gallagher's interviews. In the book, he talks about some of his experiences with people he believes were demonically possessed, including a woman he calls Julia. Evidence for demonic possession consists principally in people like Julia having special powers. One night, Dr. Gallagher heard his normally peaceful cats screeching and fighting with each other, and the next day he meets a woman he calls Julia, who says, "How'd you like those cats last night?" Weird, for sure, but not quite yet the medical documentation that we're seeking. So then, what other special powers did Julia have? Well, Dr. Gallagher writes in the Washington Post of how she knew things that she couldn't have known naturally, including exactly how his mother had died years ago, but also she could tell some people their secret weaknesses, such as undue pride. Okay, but how about this? Julia, during various exorcisms, was suddenly able to speak fluent Latin out of nowhere. We're not told what she said, of course, but it happened. And if you can believe it, in one ceremony, she actually levitated out of her chair, literally floating in the air for half an hour. Atheists cannot explain that one. But we don't have to take Dr. Gallagher's word for this. Oh no. Actually, we can't, because he didn't see this himself. But we can just accept that the people who did see her levitate and told him about it were super trustworthy. We'll just have to take his word about somebody else's word. That's not to say that I can prove she wasn't possessed, or that Dr. Gallagher's priests were mistaken or lying, but this book, which is the only citation Redeemed Zoomer provided, hardly fulfills my evidential expectations. But here's the thing, even if you could provide some kind of actual medical evidence for demonic possession, didn't you literally just say that science can never prove anything supernatural? Maybe you just think this wouldn't count as scientific evidence, but if there can't be any scientific documentation of demonic possession, then what kind of evidence are you talking about here? Anecdotes? Testimony? It's just not doing it for me. Of course,
one of the common tests that I've employed in the past was a possessed firefighter. And what I did when I interviewed him in my office, I had a glass of water. It simply looked like a simple glass of water that was left on a shelf, but it was holy water. The human person didn't know that. I knew that. When he came in, he sat down and I started putting down stacks of books. As I'm putting these down on the table in front of him, I'm controlling his eyes. And I know that he's wondering, what in heaven's name is this priest doing? In the course of which, I go to this glass on one of the shelves and I take my finger and I get the tiniest drop of water on my finger. And as I'm walking with the next staff towards the table, I fling it on his back. I don't fling it on his skin, I fling it on his clothing. So there's no human way that this individual can perceive what has just happened. And this particular individual shot up immediately in the air backwards, hissing like a cat.
When you were an atheist, obviously you were a very skeptical person. How much of that skepticism transferred over when you became convinced that, Christianity is true, Catholicism is true?
Every exorcist, if he's worth anything, is skeptical by nature. You have to be skeptical because exorcism itself, the state of being, exorcism is an illness. It's a spiritual illness, but it can resemble very much mental illness. Frankly, some people in the world are just so strange, foolish, needy, that they at times will even fake demonic oppression in order to receive attention. So you have three states that can appear very similar, that can exhibit very similar symptoms to actual demonic possession, mental illness, and fakery. And so it's the job of the exorcist to find out what is going on here. It's not just his job to identify whether the devil is here or not. We are pastors of souls. If someone has mental illness, I take it upon myself to help the person in that state. I'm not a physician. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I can't treat the illness, but certainly I can help the person discover the illness and to receive a diagnosis from someone who is competent. And in so doing, I'm pastoring that soul. I'm giving care. I'm giving the care of Christ, the care of the church to that soul. And the same goes for somebody who is faking. I mean, will I be frustrated if I encounter somebody like that? Well, absolutely. But this person has his or her own illness. And if the person is helpable, I want to help the person coming out to come out of that state. So skepticism is our bread and butter. And we never take it as a given that someone who comes forward stating, I need the ministry of exorcism, that person is in fact possessed, right? We assume that the symptoms and the phenomena are rooted in natural causes. We make that as the default. But at the same time, and this is a mistake that I think many exorcists have made, it is entirely possible and in fact common for someone who is demonically possessed to also have mental illness. So these are not mutually exclusive states. So what you want to determine is the symptoms that are afflicting this person now, the symptoms that have brought the individual into your office and they're sitting here in front of you. What is the cause of those? And so that is the diagnosis is what occupies most of our time. And we have different tests for that. But certainly you never only do psychological testing. You never only do medical analysis, right? The priest, the exorcist, is not a referral service. If somebody comes to the church and is asking for prayer, well, the first thing we do is not send them away to go to some other professional. That would be a scandalous thing to do. Somebody's is coming to you for help. Well, you help them. So I always will pray with such a person. Now, that person may exhibit demonic symptoms immediately. If there is a demon there, when somebody is praying, exorcist or not, if somebody has the faith of Jesus Christ and is praying, that prayer is repulsive to the demon. It is demon kryptonite, if we can speak that way. It causes him pain, and so he's going to react. He may react he may react in a manner that is visible to me. He may not. He may react in a manner that is only visible or only sensed, if you will, by the victim in front of me seeking help. But there's going to be some kind of reaction. There may be no reaction. And if there's no reaction at this point, the probability is going to be very high and increasing by the second that the heart of the problem here is mental illness. Because when I pray, I am praying specifically against anything demonic. And if there's no reaction whatsoever, even internally to the person, so when I'm done praying, I will always ask, as I was praying, did you see anything, hear anything, feel anything? And I will specify that. Was there any pain in your hands, in your throat, in your stomach? Was there any agitation in you? Were there any memories that came up? Any dark, ugly images that came in your mind? Where I rested my hand on your head as I was praying, is there pain there? Did my hand feel extraordinarily heavy? I will make specifications like that, and I'll let them tell me what they experience. So that's the beginning of a diagnosis. Even if someone has a demon within them, you will employ psychology, you will employ medical staff, because again, they are not mutually exclusive, and there can be a condition in the state of somebody who is possessed that you need to be aware of, that if you're not aware of, that medically it can be a liability to them, it can wound them, if you're not aware of it, you're not helping them.
In my view, exorcists are not too unlike medical doctors in the sense of you look for symptoms, specific symptoms, and you'll make a diagnosis based on those symptoms. You also will have them, as you say, you'll run different tests, and you'll encourage them to get psychiatric testing and blood work done and all sorts of things done to sort of rule out these natural causes. But
some time ago, Cameron Bertuzzi, Capturing Christianity, interviewed a Roman Catholic exorcist by the name of Carlos Martins about his experience dealing with exorcism. There was a time when Father Martins was an atheist. At one point, Father Martins converted to Catholicism and became a Catholic priest. Father Martins said that the skepticism he carried with him as an atheist has helped him as an exorcist, because every good exorcist must be skeptical by nature. Demon possession is a spiritual illness that resembles mental illness. But that's why people like to call it mental illness, to eliminate the supernatural from possibility, because it resembles a mental illness at times. But there are differences. Some people who want attention will fake demonic oppression in order to get attention. The expert, in this case the priest, has to decide among demonic possession, mental illness, and fakery. But the Catholic exorcists have been trained to be able to do so. Father Martin says that even if it's determined that the person is mentally ill instead of possessed by a demon, Father Martin still feels like he has to be responsible to help the person, even if he has no demon to exorcise. Since Martins is not a physician or a psychologist, Martins cannot treat like a doctor or a psychiatrist. He must refer them to qualified people. But he does what he can to help the people in any way that he can, even if he does not have to perform the rite of exorcism. Even if Martins discovers that someone is faking demonic possession, Father Martins still wants to help them. Priests like Father Martins first assume that the symptoms that present themselves are rooted in natural causes. So they're going to assume natural causes before moving into looking at spiritual causes. Martin says it's entirely possible and common for someone who's demonically possessed to also have a mental illness at the same time that they're demon possessed. So demon possession can work side by side with mental illness. The priest's job is to determine the cause of the symptoms that have brought the individual to them for care. Martin says you never only do psychological testing. You never only do medical analysis. If someone comes to the church asking for prayer because they believe they're demon-possessed, Father Martin says the church should not first send them away. They should try to help them. And one way to do that is by praying for them. When someone prays with a demonically possessed person, the demon possessed person finds the prayer, or the demon in the demon-possessed person finds the prayer repulsive, and there's going to be a reaction. The demon's reaction is sometimes visible to the priest, but sometimes the demon's reaction to the prayer is not visible to the priest. Sometimes there's no reaction to the prayer at all, and when that's the case, it's more likely that mental illness is at play rather than demonic possession. Even if someone is demon-possessed, you still employ psychological and medical staff. Bertuzzi says that exorcists, like doctors, look for symptoms and make diagnoses based on symptoms. Bertuzzi says that exorcists run tests like doctors run tests in an effort to rule out natural causes.
But I guess the question that I've got for you is, you say that you're a skeptic and that you're not just, and that's every exorcist has got to be a skeptic in order to be a good exorcist. What are the indicators that you look for to come to a diagnosis of someone is either oppressed or possessed? What are the specific things that you look for, and then how do you make that determination as a skeptic?
Sure. So the thing to understand is, if a demon is present in somebody, they may not be possessed. There's different grades of demonic hold that people can get themselves in. But what we're talking about is within a body, within an individual, that there is now a spirit that is not their own, that is present alongside theirs. And in order to understand the dynamic here, we need to understand what a human being is. A human being is not a body and a soul. It's not a body with a soul within it. We are bodies who are souls. We are ensouled bodies, if you will. So it was never in God's plan for there to be a separation between the body and the soul that occurs at death. That was never part of God's plan. And so we are in integration. There is no point, there's no dividing line between where your body ends and your soul begins. Right? That would be a fake artificial distinction. When you die, there is that separation, and it's definitive. We can see. We look at a dead body. This person is not here any longer. This is the shell of who they were. So when a spirit is present, he doesn't replace the soul of the person, but he can take over the animation of the body. And this is part of the mystery of God's creation. He created humans to be capable of possessing more than one spirit inside them, right? To be capable. This, in a sense, it's not surprising. Paul, in his epistles, identifies over and over again how we are members of Christ's body. We are limbs on the body of Christ. We're body parts on that body. And so what that means is Christ's spirit enters into us. And his spirit is exactly what we receive at baptism. We receive the same spirit of Christ. The spirit of God enters into us. That spirit is what makes us holy. That spirit is what generates within us the good actions that we're called to do. That spirit leads us, it guides us, it counsels us, it informs us, teaches us, and so forth. But it is possible for an evil spirit to enter inside us. It's possible. And even if he's not inside us, he can be around us. Let's make another distinction so that we can get to a proper understanding, because that's what we're working towards. The devil is a fallen angel. He was created as an angel, same with all of the demons. They are fallen angels. But an angel is a being, is a spirit that has no body. So an angel is a reality, an intellectual reality. It is a spirit. Each angel is a person, right? But it is a person without a body. And so there is no physical limitations upon them. What does this mean? Well, an angel doesn't travel. It has no need to travel. It doesn't have a body. Therefore, it's not limited by space and time. So an angel, any angel, your guardian angel, is just as present to you as he is to the planet Pluto, as he is to the farthest recess of the universe, to the bottom of the ocean, to the highest mountain. He is present in all of those locations simultaneously. because all of them are equally available to him as any other. Right? So the first thing we need to do to understand the angelic reality, and by extension the demonic reality, is to get rid of the notion that angels travel, that they have that they have a physicality to them. Right? They don't. When we say a demon is inside somebody, he's not literally inside, because that would imply that he is contained within a body, right? That the body would somehow limit him, and that's not the case. What we mean by that is that the demon has somehow gained a legal jurisdiction to manipulate this body, to manipulate this person, to push his or her consciousness aside and begin inhabiting. Right? That's what we're saying. A demon is, angels were created with incredible intellects. Right? They are not limited by any physicality. So they don't learn the way that we learn. They learn, all the knowledge they have is gained through intuition. So we have to reason things out, right? We'll take two pieces of information, and if they are connected, we can deduce using syllogistic thinking, using reasoning, we can derive a conclusion. They don't have to engage in that process. Whatever they have, whatever information they possess, or whatever information that we normally would need to calculate, they have instantly at their disposal. So when we look at a clear blue sky in the summer, we see immediately the sky is blue. We don't have to reason that it's blue. It's immediate to us. Angels have all of their knowledge in this manner. For us to determine the 1,000th digit of pi, the relationship of a circle, of the diameter of a circle to its circumference, we have to calculate that. An angel knows that instantly. Right? It's not even the fact that he calculates it. He doesn't have to calculate it. He knows it immediately. Right? This is the power of an angelic intellect. An angelic intellect has a perfect memory. Everything about you in your life, the angels witness. Anything that is observable, anything external, they know that. They know about you. They've spent your whole life studying you. So they have phenomenal information about you. And this is why they can exercise a temptation that's going to hit you right in between the eyes. Right? They're able to produce something that is maximally attractive to you based on your own makeup and your own composition. So all of this, angels function in this manner, demons function in this manner. When a demon is present in somebody, however, he has made himself subject at some level to the world of physicality. As long as he's present in this person X, my coming near person X and praying, he's going to feel it acutely. Right? And this is the way in which God has so structured reality, that in choosing to inhabit this person, he is choosing to accept the limitations on his own being. He's giving up his defenses in order to gain that person. And so what comes near the person that is holy, he's going to feel it acutely, right? So knowing this, an exorcist tries to do that very thing. So initially in an interview, I will pray with the individual and I'll observe reactions. I'm looking for reactions. They don't mean anything other than the person reported a reaction or I physically saw a reaction. They don't mean anything more than that. It doesn't mean to me, it doesn't, the conclusion cannot be made at this point that it was the devil or that it was mental illness per se or some other cause. I move into then testing in a manner that the person doesn't know, because there are three classical signs of demonic possession. knowledge of unknown languages. So languages a person has never been taught. And so I don't mean one or two words or a few phrases. I mean perfect knowledge of that language, that they can function and speak in it using perfect grammar, perfect sentences, and they can respond to questions. In other words, formulate a thought based on that knowledge, based on a knowledge that is theirs. Secondly, is knowledge of hidden and distant events, things that they couldn't possibly know. Like, for example, what is written word for word on the shopping list in your pocket, an extensive shopping list. Knowledge, if they're able to report back to you something you did at a certain time and place in your life, and no one was around to witness it, you've never told anyone else, but they have that knowledge. Well, they have knowledge of the occult, knowledge of what is hidden, right? That it surpasses the power of human nature to know that. And thirdly, it is a display of superhuman strength, a power that is simply beyond the capability of a human person. A 120-pound woman cannot pick up and throw across the room a 300-pound man. Like that just doesn't happen. But if it does happen, now you have a display of the supernatural that has been shown, and you can't. Nothing in the natural provides an explanation for that. So you've got to leave the natural and enter into the supernatural to give the explanation.
Every exorcist must be a good skeptic in order to be an exorcist. What are the indicators that determine if someone's possessed or oppressed? Yes. So when someone comes to them looking for exorcism, that's not the first thing they do. They want to make sure that mental illness and medical problem have been ruled out. So then they went through some indicators that determine if someone's possessed or oppressed. In possession, Father Martin says, within a person there's a spirit that is present alongside their own spirit. Martin says we are ensouled bodies, or we are bodies that have souls inside them. He said when someone's alive, their soul and body are together. When they die, the soul separates from the body. He said when a demonic spirit is present, the demonic spirit does not replace the person's soul, but the demonic spirit can take over the animation of the body. He said God created persons to be capable to possess more than one spirit inside them. He said even if an evil spirit is not inside someone, that evil spirit can be around someone. He said an angel is a spirit or a person with no body. He said, therefore, an angel has no physical limitations. A person's body does not limit a demon. In demon possession, a demon has somehow gained a legal jurisdiction to manipulate a body or person, push that person's consciousness aside, and begin inhabiting that person's consciousness. That's what demons do. Angels were created with strong intellects. Demons have made themselves subject to the physical world. Demons are bothered by our prayers. Sometimes the patient reports a reaction to prayer. Sometimes the priest witnesses the demon's reaction to prayer. Sometimes the patient, Martins will test the patient in a way such that the patient doesn't know they're being tested. That was the holy water test. Martin says there are 3 classical signs of demon possession that he looks for when he prays in an exorcism. The demon-possessed person will have perfect knowledge of unknown languages. The demon-possessed person will have knowledge of hidden or distant events. And the demonically possessed person will display superhuman strength.
When I pray subsequently, I'm looking for these 3 things. Now, because somebody comes up to an exorcist asking for help, I think I have the devil. I think the devil is after me. Can you help me get rid of him? So you can't. Just as you can't accept that as fact, that what they're saying is true, neither the fact that they have the devil or necessarily that they even want to get rid of him. Right? You can't presume either one of those merely because somebody tells you. You have to now apply a testing that is beyond the human subject's perception. You have to be testing them without they know that they're being tested. And how do you do that? Well, one of the common tests that I've employed in the past, and I'm thinking about one case, the next podcast that I have coming out in my series, the Exorcist Files, it involves this case, and it was a possessed firefighter. And so what I did when I interviewed him in my office, I had a glass of water, just like this, like I'm drinking out of now, and I put it on top of a shelf on one of my bookcases, one of the many bookcases that line my office. It simply looked like a simple glass of water that was left on a shelf, but it was holy water. The human person didn't know that. I knew that. When he came in, he sat down, and I just created simple conversation with him. And then, I asked him a question that necessitated a story to be told, so that he was going to be talking for a while. And as I did that, I said, keep talking. And I just went to my shelves and I started putting down stacks of books. And those books ranged on various topics, the spiritual topics, religious topics, theology, and so forth, but just strange and out of place things. For example, the 2002 Baltimore Orioles yearbook, a book on how to drywall your basement, and so forth, interspersed with these other titles. Why am I doing that? As I'm putting these down on the table in front of him, I'm controlling his eyes. And so he's looking at those titles. And I know that he's wondering, what in heaven's name is this priest doing? Why is he putting these books on the table? I'm controlling where he's looking. And so I just keep bringing several stacks, in the course of which I go to this glass on one of the shelves. Right? I know he can't see me. I have my back turned to him, but I know he has his back turned to me as well. And he's looking at what I just put down on the table. And I take my finger and I get the tiniest drop of water on my finger. And as I'm walking with the next stack towards the table, I fling it on his back. I don't fling it on his skin. I fling it on his clothing. So there's no human way that this individual can perceive what has just happened. And this particular individual shot up immediately in the air backwards, hissing like a cat. And I didn't have the individual any longer. Now it's the demon speaking. So what I did in that moment is I established knowledge of the occult, knowledge of the hidden. There is no way on a human level that he could know I just put holy water on him. There's no way. And there'll be other tests of this sort as well. I don't really like to go into those tests because those are the tools in our toolbox. And so if they become public, they cease being effective as tools. So, but that gives you an example of the kind of testing that we will do.
Strength. And then the last part of this excerpt was the holy water test. And in it, Martins had a glass of holy water. Martins knew it was holy water, but the person in Martins' office did not know it was holy water. Martins placed several books on a table in front of the person to distract the person, to control where his eyes were looking. So Martin took a undetectable drop of holy water, flung the holy water on the person's clothing, so that there was no way that the person could feel the drop. There was no human or natural way the person could have known it was holy water or even felt that the water touched him. Because the person was demon-possessed, the person shot up, hissed like a cat, and the demon manifested itself. And that was the holy water test, and how Father Martins knew that he was dealing with a demon-possessed person. Hey there, thanks for joining me today on Blessed Man Meditations. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please check out my other playlists where I went through things like I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist by Norm Geisler and Frank Turek, More Than a Carpenter by Josh McDowell, Is Atheism Dead by Eric Metaxas. The videos are still being posted for that one. Is God a Moral Monster by Paul Copan. 101 Bible Contradictions. That is a series of about 9 videos where a list that was created by Muslim scholar Shabir Ali was responded to by some apologists. That's a lengthy series, but it's worthwhile. And also, I'm working on a series through Person of Interest by cold case homicide detective J. Warner Wallace, the former atheist who studied the evidence for Christianity, the claims for Christianity, and turned from his atheism into being a Christian. And there are other apologists out there with a similar story to that of Wallace. So please check those out. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And thank you for joining me today. Have a blessed day.